Okay, we're live. Moji Masala, JD and Shireen making Gobi Masala. I'll let Shireen take it away.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us, and thanks for joining us again. If you happen to have caught the Rogan Josh Instagram live or replay that we did,
Or the sweet masala.
or the sweet masala chai that followed that. So we're a little bit on a roll. We're excited. We're in cooking mode. It's cold. I don't know what it is with the cold and cooking all this wonderful food, but I'm very inspired. And today we're doing a pretty easy dish. And most vegetables are actually pretty easy dishes. So we're doing gobi or cauliflower.
Hi, Ashley.
It's a sauté dish. You saute it really on high heat and then kind of bring down to let it soften and absorb all the spices. But aside from just teaching you how to make this dish, I like showing this dish as a great segue into Indian cooking, because what you do to make this dish is you take these beautiful spices and you really cook them in tomato and onions and a little bit of liquid and really let you create a masala paste. And that masala paste then becomes where all the flavor is, and then you add, in this case, cauliflower. But really with Indian cooking, it's whatever vegetable you're cooking, whatever meat you're cooking, tends to usually start with some combination of onion and or tomato and spices and oil. And so I get to show you that because the rest of the dish is so easy. We can spend a little bit of time without wasting too much time and kind of go through some of that. And then also, I know a lot of people really love cauliflower. It's one of our most popular blends, so I thought it was a great chance to show some people really when this dish is done. I feel like one of the biggest mistakes you can make in this dish is just not cooking it that extra 5 to 7 minutes. Let it really soften, let all the spices absorb. And it's a difference, again, between it being good versus like really, really good, great. So this dish uses our gobi masala, which, by the way, is this dish is interchangeable with cabbage. And even though like a lot of people maybe don't eat cabbage, it's so delicious. It could actually become like your favorite vegetable, because it's one of those vegetables that lasts forever in the fridge, and you can just, it softens up beautifully, and it's very, very tasty. But we're just gonna do cauliflower today, kept it simple. I do wanna point out, I know people look at the small cauliflower heads and think, oh, they look too small. You really wanna go with a smaller head. One, because when you chop it up, it's actually quite a bit of cauliflower. Two, you want to be able to saute and turn the vegetable really easily in your pan or pot. And when it's too big, it just takes up too much space. There's not enough spice. It can't really properly absorb into the cauliflower. So, and then because cauliflower is hard, it needs to kind of soften up, open up, and absorb the spice. So you want to like leave some space for all that to happen. And it's quite a small cauliflower, and actually it produces quite a bit of food. Largely, I want to talk a little bit how I chop them. I'm not obsessed with like these perfect florets. It does not matter. But I do tend to cut off more of the stem. It keeps some stem, and some pieces are bigger, but I do cut off more of the stem, and then I kind of slice it so at least one side is flat. The two things. The stems are a little bit harder. They don't absorb as much spice. So when you cook it, you might lose some flavor because it's sitting on the stem, and the stem isn't softened up enough, and it just sort of, you taste more cauliflower as opposed to a lot of the spices and a lot of that good flavor. And then I just sort of also kind of at least make one side flat for most, not every single one. I'm not obsessed, but like this one isn't. But I do keep kind of a flatter side if I can. Take a little bit extra time. Again, same reason. It allows a lot of that spice to get absorbed. So that's kind of it. So really what we're going to do is we're going to saute the onion first. That takes depends on, we have gas. It goes pretty quickly. If you have electric, it may take an extra minute or two. And then add the garlic. And then we're going to add the tomato. And the tomato, a lot of the water is going to come out. A lot of liquid's going to come out. And really, that's where your paste is going to form. And all of your masala base is going to form. And then you're going to add your spices. And then you're going to add your cauliflower. So that's the gist of it. So here we go. Let's switch over to the stove. In this part, in step one, we're going to be doing the tomatoes and onions and garlic. We're going to use medium-high heat. Good amount of heat. If you joined us for Rogan Josh, you know that this step is, fairly constant turning of the onion and adding water to keep the pan from burning and keep a little bit of moisture going so it doesn't dry out or burn, but not so much that it's like cooking in a liquid. And so I have my cup of water here. So my pan's heating up, and want to get a hot pan and put, it's going to be about 3 tablespoons of oil for this, but it's, again, you don't have to obsess over it. You just want a well-coated pan so that it doesn't burn, that the spices can, the spices and the tomato onion can cook properly. It should kind of move around a little bit easily. I don't know if you can quite catch that. There you go. That's probably a little bit more than 3, but that's fine. If you don't want to use as much oil, that's totally fine. You can use less oil. Just keep in mind you'll probably have to add more water to keep your pan moist, which is all good. Yes. Okay. So we're gonna start with. We're good here. We're gonna add the onion. Got the sizzle there, which is great. Lets us know that's hot enough. So you want to get this like a little bit, you know, this is an important step. A lot of the flavor of the onion comes from, I don't want to say caramelizing, you're not cooking it that much, but just getting it really nice and brown, like a really nice golden brown. And when this is about halfway cooked, I'm going to probably just throw in the garlic there. The garlic needs a little less time. And, you know, so that I think a lot of people used to cooking till the onions are kind of translucent. You want to keep going from there. You want to get a nicely browned onion. If you made the Rogan Josh with us the other day, it's not going to be as brown as the Rogan Josh was. Probably a couple of minutes before, a couple of minutes less time there. So while this is sauteing and I'm talking, you can see I'm just moving them around. I don't want it to burn. Different parts of the pot have different levels of heat. Just trying to keep it all moving. We'll do it a little bit less, a little bit slower. So this is the blend we're using. I didn't mix it up yet because I wanted you to see, you know, if you buy the packets, it's all mixed up. You can smell it for sure, but you sort of necessarily can't see what everything looks like. So this is cumin, coriander. It's my mom's super special garam masala recipe, which just has a black and green cardamom, cloves, cinnamon, black cumin seed, and then a little bit of turmeric, really mostly for color. I know turmeric's very popular. Turmeric's quite bitter. You know, a 1/4 teaspoon to a 1/2 teaspoon tends to be the most you'd use on a dish. Some people really like the turmeric flavor and they like a little bit of that bitterness, and that's great. But oftentimes turmeric's really just added for color, and if you kind of go overboard in the turmeric, it is one of those spices that can dramatically alter the flavor of your dish. It will taste very turmeric-y. The way I've been taught to cook is really all about balance. So the proportions of the spices are kind of based on what will get absorbed by whatever food you're cooking, so that no one spice really gets picked up, that it's really a balance of cumin, coriander, slight sweet notes from, say, some green cardamom, maybe the fennel, if that's in there, some smokiness from the black cardamom. So you just sort of, it's balanced. I go for balance on the flavor profile. And same with the red chili. You know, I always use a Kashmiri red chili, which is a little less acidic, a little less spicy. It has a good amount of heat, but I always sort of taste the spices first and then the heat. And I kind of, for me, that's, you should taste heat, you should feel heat rather, but it should come a little bit later, not immediately, because I feel like it can really hide the flavor of the food if it's too spicy. Okay, I'm just gonna throw the garlic in here. So you can see, JD, if you don't mind, I just want to show them, I know you showed them, but some parts are getting a little bit browner than others. I used a good amount of oil, so I'm actually not needing to add too much water here. I'm gonna move some of those browner bits to the middle, kind of get some of the whiter bits to the outside so that it cooks a little more evenly. Turn down my heat just a drop. Yeah, this is pretty good. So now I'm going to add the tomato. Now this is really important. You really want your tomato to cook down. You really want all the liquid to come out. You're kind of frying the tomato here. And one of the ways you're gonna know when this is done is there's this little point where the oil separates out from the water and the liquid. The tomato will be completely sort of melted down. And when that oil separates, that's when you know it's done. That's when the flavor profile is also where you need it to be. And at that point is when you add the spices. Again, this takes, this is a half of a big tomato. I probably add a little bit more tomato than I would normally. I felt like a little more of a tomatoey flavor today. Just cooking it down there. See, it's starting to cook down. It's softening pretty quickly. But again, still medium-high heat.
Hey Mary, we're cooking gobi masala. So if you like the cauliflower, we're turning this into a gobi masala. This is our blend, Moji masala.
Masala gobi.
Or masala gobi. And Shireen had put the onions and sauteed the onions until they were fairly brown. And now she is dehydrating the tomatoes and mixing them with the onions. And then for us, as Moji masala, this is our product, the gobi masala cauliflower. So in one packet, we'll create this one dish with one head of cauliflower. So we're enjoying. Thank you for joining us.
A lot of water is coming out of the tomato, so it's starting to spark a bit. So not a bad idea to have a towel on hand. Yeah, baby.
It's me, Mommy. It's me, Mom. I'll do the washing.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mom. Which clothes are dirty?
Which clothes?
Yeah.
Probably the ones in your hamper.
All of them in my hamper?
Yes.
I better put them in the laundry.
Okay.
And that's Nora.
Yeah, I don't know how that's gonna end out.
Don't worry. I'll wash all my clothes and now I can fold them. And you will know, Mommy, it was ever washed.
Oh, great. Okay, so as you can see, a lot of the liquids come out. When I push down on it, it's getting very soft. It's starting to happen. I'm going to cook a little more. There's still big kind of hard chunks, but the oil is starting to separate a little bit. So maybe zoom in right there, JD. You see it. You can start to see that. And my pan is also drying up a bit. So I'm going to just add it. Maybe a little bit too big a splash. Splash of water. That was a good splash. So now if you use less tomato, or maybe your tomato didn't really release enough water, you could just add water. It's just, don't over add the water. It's literally splashes. It's not even something, it's a couple tablespoons if you measured it probably. And now it's starting to get like more pasty, so literally this is your base. It's garlic, onion, tomato. That's all it is so far. And this is literally forming the base. So you're gonna add your spices. So why is this important? So much of these spices, most of these spices until 10 minutes ago were seeds. They were whole seeds, cumin seeds, coriander seeds, cardamom, green and black cardamom pods. They need to be cooked first. They're not something you sprinkle on to add the flavor. They have to be cooked first before you actually cook the main dish that you're cooking. Yes, my love.
Hi, Frederic. Bonjour. Thank you for joining us. Great to see you.
Okay, so I think this is pretty good. What I'm going to do is now add a
Can you take me to the washing machine?
touch more water just in case it dries out a little bit. And I'm going to now add all of these spices right in. It would have, normally they'd be more mixed up. Okay. So now, I am going to literally cook the spices in this tomato onion paste. And you can see what happens. All of the liquid gets absorbed almost immediately. So this is fine. I still have a lot of oil. It's cooking nicely. I don't want it too wet. I want the spices to cook up in a little more drier fashion. I'm not going to add too much water. My pan is not burning. It's a nice thick paste. These spices are smelling amazing. And it's cooking up beautifully. Now you can start to see now it's starting to burn a little bit, not burn, but dry up. So I'm going to add a touch of water at the edges where the pan, and then so now we have a nice thick paste. It's been like a good minute, I would say. And so these spices, you can tell by the smell too, these spices have cooked up. And now, so now I have a masala paste. That's all it is. So now I'm gonna add.
Yes, Ashley, absolutely. Beautiful dark masala. Thank you.
Add,
here comes the gobi.
Add the gobi. So you can see it's this little, I didn't show you the whole head. It's one of those small heads. I think it's one of the ones like people are like, oh, it's too small. I don't think anything will come of it. No. That's about 1.5 pounds, you know, a head. About 1.5 pounds is really what you want to go for. It fills up the whole pan, but there's still a little room for me to cook. It's kind of burning up a little bit, so I'm going to add some water. You see that? Not a big deal. Add water. Let it go. And this time you can add a little bit more water. Just what you're trying to do is keep it a little wet. And if you wanted to, you could have even added it right before adding the cauliflower, because you want to be able to coat it. You want to coat it well. The only reason I say to be a little careful adding water, it's not going to alter too much, but I like my cauliflower to have a little bit drier and have a little like really flavorful and have a little slightly hard. I guess you would say al dente. And if you add too much water, it's just going to really like steam and get very soft, very delicious. It will be really tasty. And in fact, at this point, if you just want to speed it up and you don't want to stand here doing this, after you coat it pretty well, you could add about 1/4 cup of water, bring it to a slight boil, and let it cook for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then cook it down. I prefer this. I feel like I can control the texture of the cauliflower, at the same time get a lot of that flavor. The flavor won't get diluted by the water. So I want maximum flavor with a little bit of bite to it, a little hardness to it. I'm gonna add a little bit more water. Sorry. It's already starting to cool down with the water. But so now this is important. I think there's a point where people think, oh, it's a couple more minutes, it's done, it's coated, it smells amazing, so it kind of like makes you hungry. It's not done. It should really, it's just, this cauliflower is hard. So cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, these are much harder foods. They, you know, some have more or less water content. Cauliflower does not have a ton of water content. So you want to cook this, let those spices get in there, and that takes a little bit of time. So if we did this with mushroom, we'd be done with mushroom in about a couple minutes. Cauliflower takes 5 to 7 minutes, a little 5 to 7 minutes longer. But it makes a really big difference in the flavor, because when
to go in the washing machine.
When you bite, when this is done and you bite down and eat the whole thing, you'll taste that spice through the whole bite. If it's not fully cooked, you'll taste a little spice on the outside and then like kind of like a rawish cauliflower taste on the inside. So just take that, it's literally extra 5 minutes of really, you'll know just by biting it. If it's soft with a little bite, you're good. And as you're cooking this, you just keep adjusting your water so your pan doesn't burn. That's all you're doing. You're cooking on medium-high heat, softening your cauliflower, letting your masala base absorb into your vegetable.
Daddy, these socks were in the hamper. These ones.
Okay. Now at this point, you know, you can garnish with some nuts. I like almonds. And then, you know, some people like to wait to the end. I like to do it now so the almonds actually soften up a little bit. And actually, I am going to do that.
Thanks for hanging with us, Ashley. Ashley's been here the whole time.
Yeah.
This dress we should go in the washing machine. This dress.
Yes, it does. Okay, this
Ooh,
smells so good. So when you see like the paste, it's still pasty, it's thick, you can smell all the flavor. It's well coated, but like I'm noticing some pieces in here are not as well coated. I'm gonna really make sure all of what's on the bottom of the pan is gonna get just, you know, coat. I want it to coat and be spread evenly, so that all the flavor is really in there. This smells so good because, so with vegetable dishes, I like to use fresh garlic or ginger if it's relevant. You know, fresh tomato. But if you don't have fresh tomato, I've started using boxed tomato, peeled tomatoes, and they're coming out quite good. I'm actually surprised. You know, sometimes also like I don't find I can always get the highest quality tomato, or I bought a tomato and it went bad because I didn't make my dish fast enough. So I just keep the boxed tomatoes are better than the canned ones. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the brand or whatever, but they come out quite tasty. But you can improvise. You know, definitely improvise. You don't have garlic cloves, you have some minced garlic, go for that, like a jar of minced garlic. So this is for people like, it feels arduous, it's only a few minutes, and it is kind of higher heat, but again, like I said, if this part seems like, oh, I don't want to sit there with this high heat, cooking this, splashing water, just go ahead and add, you know, add some water, 1/4 cup at a time, and kind of basically braise it, steam it. Until all the flavor builds in. Then you can, if you add a little more water than you need it, you can always cook down the water.
Elton on night has to go in there.
Oh, so I just realized.
Yes,
I realized I forgot to add the salt, which is not a big deal. So I think I forgot at least. Then I add a teaspoon of salt at this point. You can kind of add salt anytime, but you can't. Maybe a touch more. Can't take it back. Could have added the salt into the paste right before you added the cauliflower as well. That would have been fine. I don't always feel somehow with this dish, because it is a drier dish, I like to sort of sprinkle it on the florets itself.
Does this one need to go in the washing machine? Yeah.
So the other thing, well, this is almost done, by the way, for those of you who are still around being patient. The other thing we do a lot is, so garam masala is a spice, it's really a finishing spice, garam masala is. And so home to home, everyone tends to have their own recipe. And you just kind of have a fresh ground jar of it sort of on your countertop. And when you're done with the dish, literally eat off, you sort of taste it. If it needs a little something more, you sprinkle the garam masala on it. And it completely changes the flavor. It's that like, oh, something's missing. Literally like a 1/4 teaspoon maximum for a dish like this.
Do all of them need to be in the washing machine? Yeah, we just two elegant ones with Cohen's, right?
Yes, that is Nora. Ashley, you're right.
Okay, I'm just gonna get a fork and see where we're at with this.
Ashley says hi.
Okay. Good.
Excuse me, Mommy.
I still have that little bit of like,
Excuse me, Mommy.
a little too crunchy. I think it needs maybe another minute, but
Excuse me,
again,
Mommy.
do You can stop here if you want. I think I am gonna end up sprinkling garam masala. I also might add a drizzle of salt.
It's simple to get garam masala. You just pour the thing that washes it.
Okay.
And then it's still with hot soapy water.
I do think it needs a little more salt. But when you salt and taste it, sometimes when you're standing over it, like it doesn't. You need to almost step away from it. Don't salt it really till it's done. Because it can sometimes end up tasting. Oh, now it's getting tastier. Now see that extra minute or two, I can really start to taste. Because I cut off a lot of the chunky, stocky part too. All the flavors going, really seeping in lovely, beautifully. Okay, I don't know if you can notice how it's looking different. It's less white. That's kind of how I know visually I'm getting close to done. Like a lot of that white stock part has really changed color now. It's really more brown or more of that, some of that turmeric color is more settled in. So I think we're gonna stop here. But I am gonna sprinkle. I'm turning it off, heat. And going to take, just going to show you, this is our garam masala. It smells amazing. Literally, that much in the whole dish. So there's already some garam masala in it, but I do feel like, it could kind of use a little bit more of a kick. And I'm just going to, so the amount you use is the amount that you would just sprinkle around the whole thing. That's kind of it. And it will literally, it will transform the dish. It might need a little sprinkle salt, but I'm going to pause on that. Because I know I put a whole teaspoon in, so.
Which one?
And that's it.
The one with the red
It's a
letters?
great side for a holiday meal.
No, which one?
At this point, you can sprinkle some almonds, sliced almonds. You can also chop up some beautiful cilantro and drizzle it on top if you like that. It's also beautiful. It's really great on a table setting to do that. And see, gobi. Nori, are you gonna try the gobi?
Mom, excuse me, Mom.
Uh-huh.
With washing.
Perfect. The garam masala really tied it all together.
Washing thing that fills
That's it. That's gobi.
Thank you for joining
Try it out.
everyone.
It's delicious.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
It's